Okay. This is kind of weird. And again, as I say, I hope the filter fan doesn't get in the way of this. I'm doing this because I'm tired, and I don't want to have to worry about video. I just don't want anybody to see me now, because there's anything not to see. It's so much simpler just to do it this way. So I thought in reminiscent form, I would do it this way. I was thinking, I'm kind of tired because, well, this is where I'm at. My father is moving into the late stages of Parkinson's. My mother has dementia. I came down here to South Carolina to take care of them. I didn't know what it meant when I came down here. I just knew that I was coming down. The point of this tonight is to say, it's really weird. I'm going to say it the best I can. You don't always get what you want, but you get what you need. I hated that phrase. I hate that phrase still. I think it's because I used to think I would lose something. You don't always get what you want, but actually, I think you end up getting what you want. You just don't get it in the way that you think you want it. And then when, in hindsight, you're able to say, hey, wow, that is what I wanted. Just not in the way that I thought it was going to be. The first year I spent down here was busy dealing with a lot of crap. Trying to remember and put it in my head what it was that I was dealing with. But the challenge of coming here, period. Leaving safe New York. New York was my safety. New York is where I had the mental break, tried to commit suicide. New York is where I grew up. New York was my home. New York is where I ran to after my mental break, after the psychotic break. I ran to New York to be safe. And I spent like 25 years there trying to be safe. And then I had to come down here. Now, I left New York in 1990 to go to Florida after the abuse had just ended. But I left New York on the hope of new. I left New York this time afraid to leave. I didn't realize how much it had affected me. Trying to stay safe, but the sheer fact of having to come down here helped me to face that. Helped me to face what I felt, the clinging to New York. And even though South Carolina hasn't felt fully like home yet, and I'm not quite sure the reasons why yet, but I'm still working through that. I've learned a lot about myself in coming down here. All right, so it was a circumstance I didn't want, didn't expect, and I was forced into. And yet it was good for me. Recently, my father had taken a turn for the not so good. I'm just going to type this because I like the story. About 3 days ago, he fell. I had a camera in the house so I could watch from work. I knew he fell. I thought my mom got him up. She didn't. And then I realized she didn't. And he'd been on the floor for about 2.5 hours. And so I told my boss, I have to leave. And I left and I got home. He'd been on the floor for about 3.5 hours. I found him. His head was half into a 12-pack of Yingling beer, a 12-pack container. He told me after I got him out, got him up and sat him down and sat with him. He told me he just couldn't get his head up out of the carton to get himself up. And I asked him, and you couldn't get one open while you waited? He grinned. There's a challenge in this for me to deal with my ailing and aging parents. I already know they're both going to die from their illnesses. I already know that. That's not the issue for me. The issue for me is knowing what to do to help them. Not wanting to see them in a way that they weren't. I want them both to maintain their dignity through this. But the challenge of this experience has caused me to work through issues that I wouldn't have otherwise worked through. I'm at the point now of saying that there really aren't any issues that don't relate to my past, because they're all contexted by my past. I cannot see my everyday without having shades of my past. Now, that's not to say that I don't recognize that I am now dealing with my stuff in a way that is much more, dare I say, a normal person dealing with the stuff of their life. I just want all the men out there who might listen to this, who've been or dealing with, it is so possible to get past it. It is so possible. It's not easy, but it is so possible. The first year after I broke was so emotionally and mentally intense. I just lumped that year into trying to get my shit together. But the last 2 years have really been about refining the healing, because it is possible. And just because you meet a circumstance in your life that seems an antithesis to what you're trying to do, you might end up realizing the reason it's there is to help strengthen you. Not because you need to do the thing you're doing. That's more, actually, being here for my parents is more incidental. I mean, I have to be, because they're my parents. I love them. I want them to end their lives, like I said, with dignity. But what it's done for me has been eye-opening. Now I'm at that point that I often did after midnight, where my mind says, all right, where are you going with this? There was something else I wanted to say, but I also don't want to run this on forever. It's been kind of neat coming back to what I did originally, without worrying about video, about focusing on my voice and the things that I wanted to say. Oh, I know what it was. I have, as of late, had a few men contacting me. We're given things in life to work with. I want to say given. I'm going to say we chose. Say, you know, you chose a suit that had orange and green versus purple and blue. And so you make use of your orange and green the best that you can. You're not going to be fully, you're not going to be able to do everything. But you're going to have something you can do. And the one thing I tend to do is make people comfortable. And they feel comfortable talking to me, and I'm grateful for that. Because I've had a few men approach me about their lives, because I made them feel comfortable. And for that, I'm so grateful, because I want my life to have meaning, purpose. use. I'd say, well, if you got the issue, talk to me, but I also don't want 100 people trying to get my attention while I'm taking care of my parents. But I don't want that to be something. The gentlemen that have contacted me already, I am so encouraged in speaking with you, because I know from my own experience and from listening to the men in my group and all that to connect with another human being who can understand what you've been through, especially when you feel it's trapped inside of you because of that, it's so important. It's so fundamentally useful to your healing to have someone who gets it, hear you, and to know, just know, they understand what you're saying. So this is running, and I'm going to end it, but I just want to say to any survivor man, to any man who has been in a situation of sexual contact, abuse, rape, any of that, you are far from alone. And there are avenues and places for you to go to find connection so that you can finally get a handle on it and let it go. I know, another turn. I've had people tell me, just let it go. Just let it go. Why can't you just let it go? You can't. Not because you don't want to. That is the very first thing in your mind, is to let it all go. You want to let it go. And the best way I have to describe it is, you say, people, don't dwell on your past. I don't dwell on my past. My past dwells on me. All the associative triggers, all the things that draw my past to me, just in my everyday experience, keep the past in front of me. And what I have to do is to recognize that and reconcile what it is that's holding the past to me. And then I can let that part of it go. I wish it were so absolute that I could just say, well, I fixed that, now it's all done, right? No. The human mind branches out in association in such a complex way that you can't just heal all the avenues of association to past pain and belief of self in one effort. It takes time to work through every little bit. But as you work through every little bit, the experience of being you gets lighter, easier, and more satisfying. I'm going to leave it at that because I already think I've gone through like 3 disjointed directions, but it's been kind of fun doing this little revisit to After Midnight because it is only 8:30. Life changes. You all have a good night.